Okay. So, first thing I'm going to do here is, I mean, yeah, I can sit there and you can put the lead eyes on. For smaller flies and everything else, for what you want, you're just as well off as you want if you're happy with it. Just using a bead off the front, and that'll just give you a little bit of tipping point there. And then I sit there and what I use for some ring-tail pheasant off the tail feather. I put that out as the little nose hair off to the side.
What do you call this fly, Jeff?
Well, it's my version of what I call CL Crayfish, which stands for Crow Lake Crayfish, and where I got all the ideas from and how to tie it and everything else and work on that was when I sat there. My father-in-law had a place, an old rudimentary cottage on Crow Lake. Okay, and so we're going to put some eyes on it as well too. And now this is one of the things I did is like, yeah, we got the mono and everything else. You can burn that, but I find it always the eyes were never dark enough for what I was doing. Until you could always burn them and then dip them into black stuff. But I found just putting a marker pen on there and then letting it burn through added a certain amount of being a little darker. So then we just sit there and we'll add a couple of the burnt eyes that I have onto there. What you're doing is you're also building up along the side so you get a little bit more depth there. But what you can also do, if you like, is just bend those stalks out a bit and build up in behind so they stand out a little bit. You'll sit there and understand why that you'd want to do that. They'll show up a little bit more later on. Thank you. Now, starting of the process to build, you just take a little bit of your felt, trim it so it's a little bit easier to tie in. Because that'll come back. And that was part of the problem. This is where we're going to deal with, is like when Bob Clauser's material was always like this, and it always ended very bluntly. And I'll show you a little bit what I'm doing with that afterwards. That sort of helps make that a little more, looking a little bit more natural. Now, again, I used to take a drill, and then I have a little bit of piece of brass that I bought, and then I'd sharpen the edge by just running. While the drill was going, I'd sit there and use some fine emery cloth and everything else so it would make a real fine edge on it and cut. And then I'd sit there and I've gone off and I've bought in various chunks of foam. Punch it down, punch it through, you got a foam cylinder. But what I'll do is first off is I will tie in this piece of the material like that. I'm going to show you the dubbing method. And so rather than having to do a lot of twisting, that's when you just spin it like that. And then you just sit there and you can put a little bit of it inside there. And you're going to go back to about this point. And then you're going to bind down the rest of the foam there. So you got that's where your flotation is. So you're going to come back, just grab that and trim that to form that part. Now, so we got some of this part here. Now we could pick part of that out, but we'll do that later. Or you can add a little bit more dubbing on top of that. And this is where we sit there and get to where we build in our claws. This is where we're going to want the claws to extend almost out to where the eyes are there. So we just sit there and we just tuck this. See how that's sort of like when that'll stand out from the side? And that's what you want, what it'll do when you're in the water when it's at rest. And yet when you strip it back, it'll fold back in like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is a little bit more dubbing here. And this is again why I say with this thread, it's so nice. You just sit there, like, see how you can just get on the edge of the needle, you can spread it, and then it's just a matter of opening it up and dropping your material in. So this is what I was saying, like we're doing things back. Again, I'm dubbing from the eye of the hook towards here. And then I'm going to just probably put a little bit of dubbing around here as well too, where it tied in. And the reason I'm doing that is now this thread is going to be my ribbing. As when I sit there and I pull this off here, I will use that to form my ribbing. You see how it's sort of like gone a little bit more on the segmented? Right. Now what you're doing is, this is where you sit there and you form to a little bit of a cut. And there's your tail. Well, this is where I take a bit of my, the old Velcro, the rough side, and I brush out and strip away the foam here to get it to come away to the front. And then you just sit there, and then you, for the under part, for the legs and everything else, you just sit there, you take the dubbing that you've already picked out, or you've dubbed in there, and so you get something there that again gives the hint of movement and everything else.